All right. Dynamite Delight. Well, actually, no, it's not Dynamite Delight. It's Maximum Carnage. That is the name of this show. And we're getting Collision as Maximum Carnage as well. I kind of wish that Collision be called something else than Maximum Carnage, but they are going there. Let me give it to you like this. This show, they tried something somewhat different. Somewhat in certain parts, somewhat different. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm being honest here. You see the title of my video. That is what I'm going to end with. But it's like, generally speaking, they tried to do something different. Now, like I said, I do not know if this is going to work. And if it does work, I'm going to be like, that's kind of not good. But then it's what they got. I'll explain when I get to the end of this if I don't forget. Let's go to Kenny Omega versus a Brian Cage. Now, we know what happened at the end when Kenny got his butt kicked, that Kateska comes out. You see a Kyle Fletcher come out. They didn't do much with Lance Archer, who was at ringside, and Don Callis was on commentary. But I'm going to be honest here. I'm not against Kenny. I actually think as a Japanese-style wrestler, as Kenny is, he's never been 100% bad. But you cannot deny when you saw him go against Brian, he was sloppy. Sloppy. At one point when he decided to do a forward flip over a Brian Cage, he overestimated how far, or underestimated how far he was going to flip forward, and he literally landed on his damn face and gave himself a knot right there. If it wasn't from the cut, it was from him hitting his head on the mat. And then there were other couple of times during that match he was sloppy. Now you could say, dude, have a little kindness. He only just came back wrestling. Yes, he did. And he worked Wrestle Dynasty. Yes, he did. And I don't know how many times he wrestled before that to get prepared. He probably did a lot of mock wrestling to get his body in shape. Yes. But we are still going with his first debut back, when it should have been here that he showed up not at Wrestle Dynasty. He goes against Brian Cage, who has not been one of the greatest wrestlers that they actually have pushed. The most he has the FTW title and the Ring of Honor Trios titles. That's it. And I'm not even against Brian. I actually like the Machine. But they've done nothing with him. And then you stick him up against Kenny, where you would hope that he would do well. He was sloppy. He was sloppy. Yes, you get Will Ospreay saving his ass. It looks like Will and Kenny may finally work together, even though they still hate each other's guts. They just want to take down the Don Callis family. So this is what we got. This story, this is the first story I'm talking about that could be okay. Because it's still going to be accounting on how they're going to book this so they can get real revenge on the Don Callis family. Because just having matches is not going to be enough. It just isn't. It's going to count on how they're going to book Kenny and how they're going to book Will, either separate or together. Moving on. Next, the Hurt Business versus, the Hurt Business in total. Not just a Shelton and Bobby, also MVP showed up. He came to wrestle. And we get the tag chance with a Mark Briscoe. I have not seen MVP wrestle in a long time. I do remember that he had an ACL injury and he could not wrestle for quite a while. So that's why he stayed a manager for so long. I don't think he broke his ankle. I think it was his knee. Right knee, I believe? And it took a long time for him to recover. So I've not seen him wrestle in quite a long time. But I know there are going to be people there going to say, oh, MVP he ain't nothing. He can't wrestle anymore. I'm evaluating it for what he was able to do. He did work a okay to decent match. I'm not telling you he's going to light the wrestling scene on fire. You got people who are young, healthy, but they do this. They are here. It doesn't matter if they grapple wrestle. It doesn't matter if they do catch cam. It doesn't matter if they do high flying. It means nothing. If they don't understand psychology, they can do every move you want. But if the move doesn't have something that will make people think or feel, it means nothing. And MVP does know how to do that. So most of that match, whenever he was in the ring, he did well. And that was the person that seemed to be the most surprising to me because he did work the match pretty well. He worked outside the ring. He worked inside the ring. There was no cheating. And pretty much the Hurt Business beat the tag champs and Mark Briscoe. So they look like they're setting up to have the Hurt Business maybe take the titles from the tag champs. Now here's the thing for me that I'm angry about. I am angry. Shelton Benjamin got the pin against Quinn. Why did he have to job so many times before we get the tag champion? It's stupid to see that Shelton Benjamin, who is that good, having to constantly job to everybody else, and finally gets this win, but it doesn't feel like anything because he lost so many times. You tell me yourself, does Shelton Benjamin feel legitimate or not? Yes, he's with Bobby. Bobby looked dominant. MVP looked all right. And he doesn't go in the ring much anymore. He looked fine. But the point about MVP compared to a Shelton Benjamin is that MVP doesn't get in the ring often. He is the brains of the operation. And it's obvious he is the brain. He will rarely get into the ring. And he will show people, even though he can't wrestle much, not because he can't, he's more of a manager now. He's transitioned to that, and it's a smart move because he just has the look and he has the qualifications to be a very good manager. He knows how to talk. He knows how to hold a character. He knows how to motivate the fans to hate or to love. He just has it. So seeing him generally do a good job, that's good. But Shelton has been booked to constantly almost lose. Except for a few times he won, he's lost more than he won. And he doesn't feel legitimate. So that's what I feel. Next. The women's Casino Gauntlet match. The first women's Casino Gauntlet match for Grand Slam Australia. Now, we know this is coming up in 2 weeks. They're going over to Australia. And this will be the first time AEW will be in Australia. And they decide to do a match that will set up women to be the number one contender against Mariah May. Okay. We got, in the opening, we got Chris Statlander versus Jamie Hayter. Was I interested in seeing Chris and Jamie face each other in the beginning? No, I did not care. The person that made me care was Megan, I believe her name is Megan Bain. Now, I do remember her seeing her once on Dark. Like they said, it was, I think Taz was one, since he was doing Dark. I do remember she was on there once. That was just me. But that was when I was looking at Dark at least a couple of times. And I do remember her briefly looking good, but she never went to the main roster. She was just, I saw once and that was it. But when you look at Bane, she was a very interesting one. And hearing how Mariah May was saying, I left Stardom when she came in, I'm so glad because that woman is, ugh. And then during the match, she was the best there, flat out. She was better than Chris. She was better than Jamie Hayter, Julia Hart, Willow, Storm was there, and she was one who won, which I'm not surprised. They wanted to set something up with a Toni Storm home. Yeah, that's what they wanted. They wanted to make sure that Toni had something to do the reboot back home. But when you look at Bane, if she's not signed to AEW, and they bring her in, and she looks that freaking dominant, yes, let's get the 60, as they say, the 60,000 pound elephant out of the room. Let's just, she's thick. Girl is thick. But she very well moved around in the ring very well. She knew how to do her timing well. It was something I can easily say was done very effectively. I actually liked how she worked the ring. I actually liked how she worked the match. At one point, I think it was Chris Statlander who might have spiked her on her damn head. And I didn't like that. That did not look good. She literally looked like she spiked her very hard on the head. But she seemed to be fine. She seemed to get back up. She was working the ring. But that was only 7 women who went through there. And there was never an 8. It was done. So, I will tell you this. If Megan Bain does not show up on the AEW TV and she shows up on ROH, it's a waste of time for her. Saying it now. If she doesn't end up on Collision, where she can transition over to Dynamite eventually, and counting, and I say it again, counting if they can book her. Because if she is signed, or is about to be signed, the major problem I see, just like what happened with Saraya, Ruby Soho, Mercedes Monet, and also, well, at first, a Toni Storm who transitioned to Taste as Toni Storm and now has gone back to Toni Storm. Bad booking. Flat out bad booking for the women. Unless they fix it, Megan Bayne will be no better than any woman there. And it will suck. But that's just me. Now, the match that I'm like, okay, what are we really doing here? Christian versus Hook. Now, Taz has been back for a little bit since he got his knee replacement. He had to get a knee replacement, and he's got it. And we're still doing this story. And I'm going like, there's got to be a reason why they're still with this story. There must be a reason. If they don't have a reason, this is dumb. The match was fine. And you can see Hook was just whooping that ass. And hearing how Taz said that he's vicariously living through his son. Honestly, I believe Taz. This is real Taz. Real life Taz. He can't go in the ring no more. He just can't. And for me personally, I wish he could, because it would make more sense for him to be working with Chris than it is Hook. You know what I mean? It should be Taz and Christian Cage. Instead of Christian Cage versus Hook. It should be a Taz. But they just can't do it. But him saying he lives vicariously through his son, I do believe that. I honestly do believe it. So we get the match. It was stopped because we did get Sabian and we did get Nick interfering. And they were beating the crap out of Hook. And at that moment, we see Taz says, no, I can't handle this. He's about to take off his mic and his headset. And then we get Samoa Joe's music. And I'm going like, I knew there had to be a reason. I knew it. Samoa Joe's back. And Katsuyori Shibata, he comes out too, but he doesn't really do much. It's more about our boy who basically still has the same look, and he looks like he's gotten in better shape, I think, while he's been away. I think he was doing another Twisted Metal animated series, I think season 2 for that, so that's one of the reasons I think he was gone. Was it animated or was it live? Not live, sorry, my mistake. I think he's doing Twisted Metal again. He did it, and now he's back. And we needed him. I miss freaking Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe is that much of a staple. Now, here's the big question. Will they book him right? What are they going to do with Samoa Joe? They need to do something with Joe. They cannot saddle him being in mid-card. He needs to be in the main event. He needs to be able to go up against Mox. And I know you're going to say, dude, are you serious? Eventually, yes. Let him build himself up and let him go through the roster and then throw him at Mox, because we don't have that many people dealing with Moxley. Last but not least, we got Moxley versus Powerhouse Hobbs. And at one point, I can't remember where, it was this ear, Moxley's ear got cut up and he was just bleeding profusely from his neck down in here. It was nasty. And this is one of the major problems. And I can see what Alex JD was talking about. If you look at Pentagon Jr., when he appeared with Chad Gable, I did the review of that. I said it was done very well. It felt good to see Pentagon wrestle. It was great with Chad, and then he got a chance to talk. But what I didn't talk about was the psychology of Pentagon Jr. and how he and Chad Gable were telling a very good story. I didn't feel like it was that important, but here I have to say it, because he did not have to go all out like crazy like he does in AEW when he was working there. He didn't need to. He had to just use the noggin. He had to use psychology to convince the people to care. And that's one of the major problems AEW currently has. And I know there's people that's going to come here and say, dude, AEW is doing good. Why are you constantly chewing it out? I'm not. I'm giving you fair criticism. Look at Alex. Look at JD. They're way more critical because they're giving more of an attitude. They're very angry that AEW is the way it is. I've been talking about it for years, the way it's been. I've said 100% for years that AEW has had a major issue. Its booking has been bad for the men and for the women. There is a major issue when it comes to them doing too much, and you don't have psychology. I've stated this for 3 years or more, and everyone was loving it, but I was giving it a fair criticism. I haven't changed my point of view. AEW still has that major issue. They don't know how to do psychology very well. A lot of wrestlers who do know how to do psychology, like Pac, like Moxley does know how to use psychology. But due to the fact that the style that Tony likes in there, which is more Japanese hardcore wrestling, the major problem is there isn't always good storytelling. And when they go too far with their physicality, someone gets hurt. Almost every match, well, last year, almost every match, Moxley bled. Either he bled himself or he actually got hurt. And I felt that was just going too far. It really hurt the guy. It's not the best he needs. We need Moxley to be the best Moxley. Not just someone who can do every move under the sun and be hardcore with it. He needs to be more now. We've had the show for 5 years. He's been there the majority of the time, almost 90% of the time. Moxley has been there. He needs to be more. And seeing him bleed again, and of course this was accidental, it wasn't on purpose. It looks like he got sliced right here on either here or somewhere around here. He got cut open. And I just felt like he needed more psychology here. Was the match bad? No. But I was not surprised that Hobbs did not win. Even though it was in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was Moxley's hometown, and it would be a blow to the Death Riders that he won there, but Wheeler Yuta gave a Psycho knee to a Hobbs, and then the briefcase to the face of Hobbs by Maria Shafir. And I think he gave him 2 Death Riders, along with a Bulldog choke. And that's when he was done. The Bulldog choke was done. But here's where I'm going, like, they went that far. So after it was over, they beat up on Hobbs, took off his knee brace, started hurting with a chair, and they crushed his knee. Then Rated FTR comes out. Now, mind you, you could say that was the wisest thing to do to get rid of him, so when Adam Copeland deals with him, he'll have even more incentive to take out Mox. But at this point, you did not need to do that at Hobbs. Because now, because of him looking like he got crushed at the end of the show, now guess what? He's got to be taken off TV to make it look good. And he only just came back. And I'm like, I understand the story. But I just don't believe it was wise to take Hobbs out of it. Yes, you can have him get beat up. And then he could go through some of Death Triangle. But doing this, I don't agree with it. I don't agree with him. He's going to have to stay off at least more than 2 weeks to make the story look good for Adam and for Mox. And what we won't see him for a while, and that sucks. Now, let's go to the meat and potatoes, what we got here. The segment with Mercedes Moné talking about showing she's going to make some money, showing she's going to spend some money, showing she's going to... 4 belts now. She now has the Rev Women's title, the New Japan Pro Strong title, and the AEW TBS title. I don't even recognize that third one. What was it? Queen of Southside? I think that was the title. I don't even know where that's from. I don't know what promotion that's from. Queen of Southside. Unless that's from Hog, I don't know. If it's from... Well, I don't even know where it's from. So now she's 4 belts Monet. And I'm like, I didn't see when she got that title. I didn't see it. So now that kind of sucks. That I wish I could have seen the match where she won it from somebody. Or she was the inaugural champion, maybe. But it was good to see they were allowing to have TV time, at least a vid pack. Not TV time, a vid pack more than anything. But then, what does this really give? She's not going to defend those titles on there. She rarely does. She only defends the TBS title. So, next. Let's get it done. The founder's being pushed. Is the founder being pushed? I have to say it. The segment with MJF, where literally MJF, Maxwell was literally saying stuff that basically we already know about Jeff. Know about him drinking, know about I will say, hearing that MJF called Karen a MILF and said, I'm going to take her off your hands after I ship you off to rehab. And then when I'm finished, when I'll send you back. But then when this is all said and done, you know what's going to be? You're going to be the guy who's going to know what a Olympic champion and a Generation 10... I'm botching here because saying nuts in his mouth. I was actually quite surprised they went that far. I was. That he was going to know the taste of Kurt Angle and MJF's nuts after he'd be licking that little area of her. And then when MJF was given a little bit back, saying that his mom basically was a call girl, his dad was basically a lawyer that had to pay his mother, even after she got knocked up, still had to keep paying, and that he was nothing but a piece of trash that had no brains, it was all right. Was it, how can I say this? Did Jeff seem a little sluggish while doing it, pausing too much? Yes. But was it all bad? No. Him wanting to become AEW... You see I'm botching here because let's just cut to the chase. Once Owen was brought up, the fight happened, and they got separated. But here's the thing. Let's make this very clear. I don't know how anybody else is going to be reacting to this. I am sure they're not happy about this. And they'll think MJF is going to destroy him, and then he's just going to move on. But what happened if he doesn't? What happened if the Triple B could be defended? Let's make it very clear. Do I believe Moxley is going to go up against a Jeff Jarrett? There's a very strong chance. No. The most Jeff is going to get, maybe the TNT title. If they're going to let him have a title, it would be TNT. They will not do the main title, I don't believe. But knowing how bad things have been when it comes to booking lately, from 2024, no matter what you say, the 2024 booking has been bad when it came to the main title scene. When MJF went away due to the fact he needed some time to get some rest after he hurt himself, and Adam Cole got injured on top of where they couldn't do the story anyway. What did we have? The Bucks storyline that did not work. There's a reason why the Bucks disappeared next to their own contracts where they had part-time. Then Moxley, where we thought we're going to have a Shane McMahon, which we haven't. And maybe in my case, I thought Adam Copeland could be a heel and he would be the brains behind it. But now he's the face going up against Mox eventually. It hasn't been great booking. It hasn't. And seeing that could be a slim 1 in a million chance that Tony may say, you know what? Let's throw them a real curveball. Let's start building up Jeff Jarrett. The young lion of TNA, the founder of TNA, is going to be allowed to reach and go at a possible pay-per-view like Revolution against Moxley. It makes my scalp itch to actually think it. I think if they do this, which I do not believe they will, I don't see MJF jobbing to a Jeff Jarrett. But if it does happen, if MJF gets beaten by Jeff Jarrett in whatever match they're going to do, and they continue that feud going into the nearest pay-per-view, which could be Revolution, I will be like, are they really setting up Jeff Jarrett to actually try and challenge against Jon Moxley for that damn title? Would they, because they have no plan, and how they're going to end this, and who's the right person to do it, unless it's Darby Allin, who's currently on Mount Everest, or climbing up Mount Everest, would they actually go there with Jeff Jarrett? I am like, oh my gosh. It'll make my mind hurt. And I think everybody else will be. so mad that Jeff Jarrett would be the champ. But to be honest, I'm being honest here. I think that might be one of the only rare things they have. I mean, yes, we did get Dustin talking about him and Jeff are the last Outlaws legitimately, which essentially they are. They're one of the few in the generation that has had heavy TV time on the main promotion in the world. And no matter if you like it or not, in most cases, both of them got over a little or, and Dustin, a lot. So would Tony do it? He might. Do I believe he should? I don't know. At this point, it counts on how much booking we're going to get. But this is just me. Peace.